Okay, Monday the 23rd of August 2021. A couple of days late with my walk this week because of the winds last week. Would have been a bit dubious trying to record. It's quite strong winds and they would have got in the way. So I'm doing a Monday walk like I used to in the old days. And today I'm at Weston here. This is Holy Trinity, Weston, which I've filmed a couple of times over recent months. I'm doing a country walking magazine 10 miler or thereabouts around Wallington, but I'm actually starting it here in Weston and doing a counterclockwise version of it around 3.75 miles from here to Wallington for lunch, and then the remainder 6.25 back here, or approximately anyway. Bit of a mixed day, but probably the best day of the week, which is why I'm out today. There's a nice cool northeasterly breeze. It's around 18, 19, but quite sultry nonetheless. It's around 1 o'clock, should be done around 5:30ish, so let's press on. There will be some duplication today, invariably, from other walks that I've done over recent COVID months, but there'll be some fresh views as well. But as I said last time, I do need to start getting some trips in now to vary the scenery a bit. Pretty much done everything that's within an hour of where I live, but this COVID thing is stretching on and on, isn't it? Come off of Maiden Lane here, which is closed today. I was very lucky to be able to access the church, to be honest. Follow this footpath marker towards Green End, which is once again part of the Hertfordshire Way. Pretty much walking through an oat field at the minute, but whether it's going to be harvested this year I do not know. Lots of wild flowers in amongst it, which is great for the wildlife. Come out onto a byway here. Don't turn right on the Western Golden Jubilee walk, but we're going left. This is a typical East Herts byway, lots of them round about, but we come off byway 12 there, take a right here onto another one headed towards Clottall, which isn't that far distant from Rushden where I was walking 2 walks ago. So as I say, there may be some duplication. There certainly will be at lunchtime when I take my lunch at Clottleberry Church. So as we come towards the end of August and into September and autumn approaches, there's another wonderful bracket fungus. Elderberries are plentiful as well. Now this is duplication because I had problems finding this path before, and the finding of it hasn't improved any. This is Hooks Green. Another autumn indicator there, cuckoo pint I believe. Now come out into open countryside, and once again the what we got here, barley hasn't been cut yet, and ahead of us the A507, where I remember recording sight of my first COVID mask, so that would have been a good year or so ago. So yeah, moving on from last year and the COVID mask, just crossed that A507, and we're now obviously duplicating that previous walk, whichever it was, heading towards Clottleberry on the map, on the Hertfordshire Way. Some lovely thistles coming into seed there, and of course, as you may be able to hear behind me, goldfinches love them. couldn't actually film a goldfinch on it this time now, unfortunately. Plenty of ash in this woodland coming ahead, and plenty of dieback as well. I didn't realise there were so many species of or types of ash until recently. Most of them are susceptible to dieback, but as I said before, some aren't. And it's those ones that the Woodland Trust are focusing on, I think, to try and establish a successor to this devastating loss. You can't really tell from this distance, but we are pretty much at the high point of today's walk, around 487 feet. Shame we can't get a view to benefit or to substantiate that. And as you can hear in the background, a bit of jet noise again. There's a very furry caterpillar in a rush. Not sure what he's going to become, apart from someone's dinner. Lots of new tree growth there. Excellent. As we now walk through the remnants of Clottleberry Wood, remarkably quiet and still in here today. This has popped up since my last walk. Obviously some works are taking place during COVID. Out of the woodland, continuing to duplicate a previous walk here. And another field that remains uncut with a very decent field margin. I remember that from before. The Himalayan balsam really has taken advantage of COVID and not being bashed. As I said previously, I think this plant is going to be with us now. It's got out of control. Can't possibly restrict it now with the way it seeds. Looks like a good season for the sloes again as well. All this fruit going wasted, eh? Stuff that we used to routinely live off. And the irony is, many supermarkets are struggling to get stock in, and we've got all this stuff out in the countryside. Another sign of times gone by. So at this juncture, we turn left. And a couple of weeks ago on the Rushden walk, we continued on straight down there, where I was commenting on the importance of these byways as communication channels for wildlife. Wonderful field of sunflowers here. These weren't evident a couple of weeks back. The thistles were, because I commented on them, but I don't recall the sunflowers. Wonderful, eh? Interestingly, they're all facing the opposite way to me here, so that must be south, I would have guessed, and I'm on their northern side. Looks like the cattle that were here a couple of weeks ago have been moved on. And here, at a point near Wallington Church, you get a better idea of the height. Not bad, nearly 500 foot, possibly a bit less at this point. So, once again, back at Wallington Church. It's around about 2:15 now, so a good time for lunch, albeit a couple of mile early perhaps for the walk really, but this is the best position on the walk at this point for me. So this is St Mary's, and once again I'm having my lunch courtesy of Kit Girling, who I think is quite a character in this area, aside from George Orwell of course. This Kit Girling seems to have a footpath named after him as well, at the church entrance I've just used. So, as I say, about 2:15, and not often I repeat my lunch stops, but this is one of them. Possibly only a handful of times in all my walks thus far, but such is the limitations of walking at the moment, for me anyway. The GPX track takes you through that gate and down the lane on the Hertfordshire Way. I'm going to try a slight variant, seeing as I've done that path before, and take the footpath indicated over by that side of the church, because it brings you to the same point. It's about 10 to 3 now. Obviously lunch has been had. Let's press on. So I think it's Fond adieu, not goodbye. I have a sneaking suspicion I might yet visit this chair again. So the footpath down this end of the church, which I haven't previously walked, leads to Kit's Lane. So as I say, I wonder if it's in connection with that chap Kit, whose bench I've just been sitting on. Well, that's interesting. This is still marked up as the Hertfordshire Way, even though the lane version is also the Hertfordshire Way. This version is a far more pleasant one, mind you. Bit of a steep exit there. So come off this little lane that I've walked about 100 yards on, do a left here, following the Hertfordshire Way again towards Shaw Green. But just before I take that left, get a good idea of the height and views here. More cereal fields, uncut as well. Now following a very pleasant greenway, so 3.5 to the church leaves us about 5.5 to go. And whilst having lunch, and as you can hear in the background, the jet noise today is pretty constant, which is quite interesting considering all the restrictions on travel at the moment. I don't know where these jets are coming or going to, but they are pretty incessant today. Okay, we come off the greenway. There's no finger post here, but the onward journey right seems to be pretty clear. And on my right you get a better view of the vista that I filmed a minute ago. Sun's out, very pleasant afternoon now. Still quite sultry, mind. Wind's dropped down, so that cooling breeze is less. Wonderful. I think these are field beans I'm walking through again to add nitrogen to the soil. As with the walk over at Letty Green, plenty of set aside here, fields being left to nature. Wonderful. Wonder if anyone can tell me what that is. And is it native? Not something I see too often. First stile of the day. Surprised actually. That could easily be a gate, and most of these stiles have gone in Hertfordshire now. Second stile to get out the same field. Wind's picking up a bit. Possibility of rain in the air. Let's hope not. It's not forecast anyway. Not that it matter any good. Looks like I was lucky, because invariably the cattle would have been around these stiles, as they always are. So, tad of luck. Another new plantation on my left, which is wonderful to see. Nice quiet section of walking here. Not that I've encountered anybody thus far. Brilliant. So you can see why the Ignil Way trail takes this high ground. It's just over on my right. I'm not actually on it at the moment, but it's about 100 yards or so in that direction. Just passing Clottleberry Wood on my left there on the map. Sheep country here, thankfully. And a very pleasant section of walking this is. So it looks like we come off this springy underfoot track. Very pleasant walking that was. And go through this gap in the hedge, across this footbridge. All eyes on me. Onward journey, having gone round the field edge there, is through this hedge. Now down this lane for a bit of road walking towards the A507 again, which we have to cross. This lane seems quiet enough though. Would ordinarily be school rush hour now, but not today. Having crossed the busy A507 there, take this footpath 7 up towards the church at Clottleberry, which was one of my 2 intended lunchtime stops, seeing as I had already been at the Wallington one. But this comes just a tad later in the walk. Let me see how I'm doing for time for future reference though. Got a new bench here, installed during COVID most likely, by the looks of it. And that's the vista towards Baldock. Although that church may well be the one at Newnham, I'm not sure. The one that got ransacked the other week. Baldock's a bit more to the left, I think. Yeah, there. So that could well be Newnham. Friends of the Friendless Church that got decimated after 90 grand spent on repairs. Or was it 150? Can't remember. So yeah, it's about 3:45. Would have been a bit late in the walk, this one. At a lovely little church, Clottleberry. Clottleberry. Well, I still don't know the name of the church, but I'll find it. But not on this village notice board either. Anyway, onward journey here, coming out of the church is right. We take an immediate right, almost, onto Public Bridleway 5, which is once again the Hertfordshire Way. See through the trees there, the church up on the high ground. Defensive strategy in mind, no doubt. So the Ignil Way goes off that way towards my right, and the A507, which is audible from here. We take the higher route, sticking with the Hertfordshire Way up there. In fact, I'm still on the Ignil Way. Rejoin the Hertfordshire Way when I reverse back on myself shortly. Up there somewhere, I believe. There are Weston Hills, and the A507 goes underneath those, through them in a tunnel at great expense when the road was widened, etc. several years ago. Thankfully it hasn't spoiled the view, as you can see. So here at the former Wallington farm on the map, we do a left off up there, back to join the Hertfordshire Way. Ignil Way continues on straight to Baldock, and ultimately back home for me. Pleasant enough view back whence I've come. So that gate over there on my right would previously have led onto the Hertfordshire Way, but no longer does. The route is now around the head of this field. Probably for the more scenic views back. Another lovely purple plant there that isn't knapweed. It's in a cool, damp environment here. Don't know what it is though. Another one for the pollinators. Now following the Hertfordshire Way on a very pleasant byway. I keep noticing a number of these aluminium posts in the verge. It looks like there may be tree supports, I'm not sure. They certainly seem to appear where there's a gap in the hedge, albeit that provides a decent vista. Apart from the A507, which I can still vaguely hear. No, that theory doesn't work about the gap in the hedge. And even more recently installed seat hasn't been unveiled yet. Still part of the Western walkabout though. Not a fantastic vista. Strange position for it. It's just ahead of Green Grove on the map, which is this woodland strip with bush wood behind it. That's the name of the wood. So at this log pile here, we take a right. About 480 foot here, so a decent vista. So this is what the metal strips are all about. There's going to be a wire through them ultimately, and I wonder if that's going to be a wildflower strip. I would certainly hope so. They're certainly all over the place, the metal strips, posts. just reached the small hamlet of Green End. Our onward journey here is left, then right, pretty sharpish. Now on footpath 12, about a half a mile there to Church End and my finish point. Cracking afternoon, very autumnal now. Now on towards that water tower ahead of us there, and that pile of cars, or sorry, straw bales I think they are. Passing the water tower in Weston. Pretty much the first bird song I've heard today, that robin. I've seen house martins and swallows, but it looks pretty much like the swifts have left. Not seeing many of them, if any, now. So just leaving a small part of Weston Park behind me, which I've filmed on a previous walk in this area. God knows which one, but it was quite recently. And another bench here to do with the Weston walkabout. Next to the exit here, where I turn right back towards the church. And another wonderful little tree tunnel as a finale. Can't come to Weston Church without filming Jack O'Legg's grave. Google that if you're interested. So there we have it. 9.6 miles, 3 hours 37, and another delightful walk courtesy of Country Walking magazine. Very decent local walk, that one for me, most of which I hadn't done before, post Wallington anyway. The sections before Wallington were very familiar, walked within the last COVID period, but the second half after lunch, good stuff. And the weather held out nicely, and as I say, very autumnal today, really. Sad to say. Where's the year going, eh? So, slightly belated this week, but better late than never. That's another one down. So until the next time, take care.